Won a Super Bowl. 9 of the 10 playoff wins in Saints franchise history are connected to the Sean Payton era. He's on our Fox NFL Kickoff. We love having him here on a Monday. Last week he was traveling, doing speeches and weddings and all the important stuff in life. Just went to dinner with his lovely wife and got the company of Sean Payton. And she's wonderful. You were wonderful, so it's great to have you back. You know, I was watching Mahomes I watched Caleb Williams for USC Saturday.
Boy, that was something. I watched that. I had a chance to see most all of that game. And
what do you see with him?
I see now I'm going to be professional here because I haven't seen the 22 copy tape. You know, in other words, I'm watching the TV version, but watching the highlights, and I see all the things that you look for. You know, in other words, there's a presence. There's I see athleticism and accuracy.
Yes.
And in a big spot, he's fun to watch.
Look at that throw.
He's fun to watch. I like what I see from him more on TV than what I'm supposed to be liking a lot from some of these others without talking about who the others are.
Right.
I agree with what you were discussing earlier when it was said he might be the first pick if he were coming out this year. And I just off of the TV stuff, I wouldn't disagree.
So you watch, and the comp for him is Mahomes, which is always unfair. But
it's a good starting spot, though.
Yeah, it's not bad. There is something about this, is that it's very rare. We always knew Brady, you didn't want to give him too much time. But with Mahomes, literally, when they were down to a minute 50, the discussion started, this is way too early. No, it was about 2.5, and the announcers last night, Tradico was talking about, okay, now you've got to slow this puppy down. And it's like, so you know, the Mahomes factor, I mean, we always knew that you give Breeze, Brady, Manning. We know that, but it feels like 50 seconds now is the threshold for Mahomes. They didn't have a spy on him. What did you make of the defense?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of routes to go. Obviously, you're trying to keep him in the pocket. You're trying to get extra help on a certain player like Kelsey. And man, for the most part, that was a back and forth battle, obviously, and listening to him being interviewed after the game. And I think his off-schedule ability, and I'm talking about this throw right here by Mahomes, was amazing. You know, the tight end turned up and it was boom right there. I still get back to, if you're able to really see all the other things that are happening with this player during the course of the game, is where you really appreciate his greatness. And we see the physical skill set, but his ability mentally to process very quickly. Yeah. He's narrating cover zero. He's narrating, hey, number 3's coming down in the box. Like the additional information he's providing for his teammates is uncanny. And he takes pride in it, you can see. And so I think the one thing which is difficult for me to watch, I can kick a field goal slow. Like, I can take time, bleed time off the clock, and kick a field goal and use the clock to kick a field goal. I don't know how to do that and score a touchdown. And so a lot of times I'll hear a young group announcing the game or a veteran group say, well, be careful we don't score too quickly here. And then I think to myself, how do I score slow touchdowns? Meaning, am I just choosing to score it on 4th down? Now, I know I can use the clock in the huddle and get to the line of scrimmage and not. I understand that.
Right.
But scoring a slow field goal is easy. Slow touchdowns, I just don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah. By the way, Herbert is a different. He's a little more mechanical than Mahomes. But when I watch him, he made a play last night, and it was a little play. But it's one of those that a pro athlete does, and people just watch it on TV and think it's easy. It was his last touchdown where he can wait an extra beat because his arm is so strong.
Yeah.
He can give that defense, he can get right in his face. And then he was backpedaling, and it was only about a 16, 15, 12-yard throw. It was just a rope. And I'm like, that's a pro athlete. You know, the Jordans, and they make everything look so easy. Sure. I think Herbert can be a little mechanical, But delivery of ball, I like Burrow. He makes a mistake, forgets it.
Yeah, that's why the game was so good last night, because when you're really paying attention to it all, it's no different than when you're seeing Mahomes and Allen go at it. We're seeing two of the better we're seeing the best in the game right now, and then arguably one of the other top 4 or 5. And that was exciting to me to watch the skill level of those players. And, I heard you just when you guys started before I left the house. It's that downer if you have someone else and you're contending and you realize, well, we're not even on the same tee box as these guys.
Well, if you have to start convincing yourself.
Yeah. But we're wanting to, like we were talking earlier, we're wanting to get to that major. We want to get to Augusta.
Right.
And then we'll worry about the black tees when we get there, all the way back. We'll figure that out.
So you've said on this show before, you like when a team plays poorly and wins because you can coach them home.
Yeah, I think taking advantage of a win sometimes, and you didn't play your best football. All these coaches today, Mondays, we've talked about it. The first half of the day is the game you just played, the corrections, getting the players treatment, and then the second half of the day you jump on the next opponent. So everyone's coaching off of mistakes. There's no perfect game played, but periodically you can have a game you win, and your players know, hey, we got a lot of work to do still. And I think that you can grow in those type of situations.
Or you're the Cowboys when you literally win by the middle of the second quarter. So Mike McCarthy now, it's interesting. They have a series of games at home against average teams. They came off a blowout on the road. What's that like? How do you bring that locker room down just a bit? That's
a great question. I think, look, you're going to go in there and you're going to discuss the corrections. And look, that was an extremely well-played game by Dallas.
Yes.
But I think you're going to take the approach, well, then who scares us? In other words, if that's what we can do, and you've kind of shown your hand talking to your team, then who do you get worried about? And the point is, hey, if we play like we're capable of playing, then we have a shot to be one of these teams. And there's 2 or 3 of them, and there's 2 or 3 of them in the AFC. So I think honesty is always a good approach with your team. And the honest truth is we can be dominant defensively. We had great balance offensively. His numbers were fantastic. The balance with the running backs and all. I would be very forthright and just say, hey, this is what we're capable of doing, and that was against a good team.
Oh yeah,
that was against a good team.
So when you talked about this, Jimmy Johnson said something about a month ago. He said, and he got some pushback. He said, "I want to see teams play Philadelphia a second time."
I heard him,
and it's people are like, "Whoa!" And it's like, well, we've always known Thanksgiving football on is different. So we're seeing some of these robust teams, Philadelphia, come way back down to earth. Explain that. What is happening to Philadelphia's dynamic offense in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think the first thing is it's our league in that the margin between, let's say, the Eagles and a middle-of-the-pack NFC team is much closer than the margin of Ohio State and Purdue.
Well, yeah, right.
Like that. And so, and then secondly, I think, we all get all the tape. Every team gets every game played. So when you're playing the Eagles this upcoming week, you have 11 weeks of their season. You can go back to last season if you want it. You have all of their games last year. I think there's an ebb and flow to how a team plays sometimes. They were certainly one of the hottest teams in our league. And they've just, for whatever reason, now, I sometimes like to look on the other side of the slate and say, look, Indianapolis has found a little new life here. They did last week with a win. 2 more wins, and he was going to become Jeff Sunday, not Jeff Saturday. That's what I said.
Yeah.
We were going to give him a new name. So I think Indianapolis probably played a little bit more up to their standard defensively. They were a good defense a year ago.
Yeah.
I still think, and it's interesting now as you watch this NFC shape up, I still think one of the better teams in the NFC is going to play tonight, and it's San Francisco. And we very well could see a San Francisco-Philly type NFC championship game or the rematch of the 49ers and the Cowboys, which was the
last
year's, was it wild card game?
Yep.
Yeah.
So one of the things I try to avoid, and I often don't, is confirmation bias. So I didn't love Zach Wilson out of college, so it's easy for me if he struggles to go, yeah, see, I told you so.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to stay out of that. I didn't love Daniel Jones out of college. That's okay. With Carson Wentz, I hung on because I liked him out of college. I hung on too long.
Sure.
So I was always worried about Zach. My takeaway, he was Johnny Manziel with a great arm. I didn't see discipline. Kind of hero balled it, little small for my liking, but a big arm talent. But I saw looseness and a casualness and a dependence on spectacular. This league is a lot about curls and flat and timeout and spectacular. The coaching's too good.
Yeah.
Even Mahomes, you don't get that much spectacular in this league. So now you're sitting there if you're the coach. And I think I'm starting to see Saleh's footprint. The defense, the passion, the physicality.
I agree.
I can see his coaching.
I agree.
So you're sitting there thinking, boy, I like my GM. And I like my coach. How long? What do you got to see so that you when you have those meetings where the quarterback's not in it, what do you have to see going forward for Zach?
It's a great question. And I think that what they're able to see that we can't see are all the other reps that take place in training camp and all the other positives and negatives that take place during the course of the week, and so they probably, sitting in a staff meeting today, have a better feeling of where they feel like they're at with him than we do. The mistake oftentimes in our league, though, is admitting when it comes to something like that, a first-round pick at quarterback,
that you made a mistake.
That we made a mistake. And so then it can be compounded, though, and that costs everyone their job. And so I think this. I think they'll have a good idea when this season ends. Is this guy going to be a part of our Super Bowl? We always talk about the roster this way. Is this guy going to be here when we win the next Super Bowl, or is there going to be someone else in his spot? And so that was the language we used in New Orleans. Is he going to be a part of our next Super Bowl win? And that just allowed you to think long-term he's going to be part of the solution as opposed to he's holding the fort right now. Because every team, you have to have a handful of these hold-the-fort guys. Your roster's made up that way. But I think, look, the loss of the running back has hurt them.
They had no run game yesterday.
The greatest ally you can give that position is a running game. And back to Mahomes, like this running back they're handing the ball off to now, all right? Not Edwards Bell, but this late round pick, where's he from?
Oh, the
number 10?
Pachero is his name?
What's his
Pacheco.
number?
Pacheco, yeah, there you go.
Listen, what did we like about him last night? So when Patrick gets a snap and he hands it to Pacheco and it gains 14 yards, there's just another snap that I'm going to have X amount of these in the game.
Yeah.
And I think, guys, when we evaluate, I always say this about Kyler Murray. I want to see him have some easy snaps and teammates make some plays for him where he doesn't have to jump off the high dive. And I felt like I noticed that runner yesterday. I mean, he was explosive and he did some good things. It's going to be more difficult for Zach if that doesn't exist, if it's just all me, and so their ability, I'm talking about the Jets, to run the football is going to allow those people in charge of evaluating the quarterback a better opportunity in the evaluation process. Because currently, if we're evaluating on what we're currently seeing from their offense, we may move on and we may realize, look, it's been overall the offense and the surrounding parts. So I think they've got to be better at running the football, and I think that'll help him a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, I to watch that game unfold with a walk-off punt return.
Oh, boy.
And I know New England's good on defense, and certainly they're well coached. But this was the season. The Jets are going to beat the Patriots.
That was the game. That game was there for you.
This is it. Here we go. It's been forever.
So, I've been doing this long enough that I have enough guys in the executive suite and scouts, and they've always sort of held you and Andy Reid to a different standard. They'll be like, Payton and Andy. You're just viewed. Now, Shanahan has moved into that young sort of offensive guy that's got a system that is just a pain in the butt to face.
Yeah.
He can run on you even when you stack the box. So you and Andy have had, for the greater part of 15 years, have been the offensive guys, the innovators, the playmakers, the schematic guys that you're not going to solve. You just keep coming up with stuff. I want to circle back to the Chiefs. One of the things I like about Mahomes is his ability, because Andy's hard. Like you, he coaches hard. He barks.
Yeah.
And you do. I mean, you coach hard. Is that did you ever – you always say that you watch plays and you kind of dabble and write stuff down. If I'd never seen Andy Reid coach and I said, Sean, you say I heard there's this guy in Kansas City and he's like, oh, he's special. How do you look at Andy Reid? As an offensive guy, how do you look at Andy and that offense and what you see that you're amazed by?
Well, with great respect, first off, there's a culture Andy's created there. You can see it, you can feel it. There's also an offensive culture, and what I mean by that is, it pretty soon all the assistants, and Monday is a big day for this. They begin this advanced work on the opponent, and they're looking for thoughts that they can give to Andy on Tuesday, or Tuesday thoughts they can give to, in those big meetings. Can their play get to the list, and then can it get from the list to the game, and then can it be called in the game? And there's nothing better when you're a young assistant, receiver coach, quarterback coach, any one of those positions, and one of your ideas makes it down the road and arrives in a game where it's a successful play. Like, that is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then there's a level of trust then. And so, we had that and had that in New Orleans where, and I used to say this all the time, man, don't get discouraged if that idea we just didn't get to in this week's plan. But it's contagious, and I think that Andy's a reason for that. He creates this
a competitive, creative.
Yeah, and look, when I cut my teeth into this league in Philly, it was right before Andy got there. So I was part of Ray Rhodes' staff. I was with John Gruden, and we cut up Green Bay and Andy Reid's teams, Holmgren's team. We cut up Shanahan. It's like every week we were studying those teams. And so for the last 15 years, Andy Reid was someone we were studying at Kansas City. And even though we might be playing the New York Giants, we would still be cutting up and looking at touchdown, red zone, third down thoughts that week that took place from the Chiefs. Like, you have to stay that up to speed on it, or you're just not keeping up with, what's being served at the local pizza establishment. I just know there's a line of people out there that want to eat there. So I got to figure out, what are they serving? And that's part of working at your craft and taking an interest, putting your own spin on it. And I think Andy's done that certainly as well as anyone. And and I get back to these bloodlines and a little bit of our DNA. He had Mike Holmgren, who was that way, and there was such a staff that came from Holmgren's group of
Holmgren's
coaches.
Tree is great.
It's unbelievable, right? And they've gone on, and so that type of stuff is a little contagious. And I think that, man, I love watching their offense, because I look for ideas.
That red zone Kelsey thing where they brought him over and they had the way they blocked it and pinched it, and you're like, I haven't seen him use that play.
No,
and
interesting.
They just waited for the moment.
Yeah, and anymore now, it's become a little, especially if you give Nance and Romo that game, and Andy's in the red zone, and he's got 5,000 plays down there inside the 10.
Right.
No, it's just become legendary.
Yeah.
And so that's when I sit back and be like, all right, easy. He's got eight plays now, all right? He's got 1 day to work on him. He's got 2 hours.
It's great seeing you, Sean. Mondays, as always, our favorite time. 25 minutes with Sean Payton. Loved every second of it. Thank you.
Outstanding, as always.
Guys, let's face it, dress shoes, stiff, clunky. I got flat feet, don't like them. Enter Wolf and Shepherd, completely changed the industry, made hybrid dress shoes feel like sneakers. And Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.